Hello and welcome to another edition of The Panel. My name's Matthew Chris from Gambling.com, and my strike partner this week, as he is every week, is Brian McClair. Or maybe I should call you Nostradamus, Brian, because looking at your predictions from last week, not only did you get 5 correct results, you got 2 accurate score predictions, including Tottenham 4, Everton 0, and Manchester City 4, Ipswich 1. I mean, where are you plucking these predictions out from?
Well, part of it is a bit of research. Part of it is watching the games. I've seen a number of the games, and I suppose part of it is historical, and the other part would just be down to kind of gut feeling about it and having a wee bit of an idea about football. Some may say that's correct, some may say that's not. And of course, there has to be some element of fortune in when you're doing predictions. I haven't read so many of Nostradamus' predictions recently, but I'm quite pleased about how things have panned out over the last couple of weeks. Let's hope that if you're saying that's a rich vein, that continues to be the case.
Okay.
We'll wait to see.
I'm tempted to ask you for this week's winning lottery numbers, but I'm not. I'm going to ask you for this week's Week 3 Premier League predictions, starting on Saturday afternoon. Arsenal host Brighton.
Yeah, you wouldn't have expected this to be a top-of-the-table clash so soon in the season, but that's exactly what it is. I mentioned Danny Welbeck last week. Much to my delight and dismay, he did very well against Manchester United. Kai Havertz has got 6 goals and 3 assists in his last 8 games at the Emirates. Will he be one to look out for in the game tomorrow? Arsenal have won 3 out of the last 4 games against Brighton. And last season, Brighton, out of 7 games in London, didn't win any. They're going to make that 8. Arsenal 3, Brighton 1.
Good stuff. Staying in London, it's Brentford Southampton in the first of the 3 o'clock games.
Well, Brentford have won their last 3 Premier League games against Southampton without conceding. Southampton have had a bit of a tough start to their Premier League campaign this season. They've only won 1 out of 9 games, of the last 9 games at Brentford. That'll be 1 out of 10. Brentford 3, Southampton 0.
Okay. Well, I know for a fact a few Everton fans will be cursing you after your prediction last week. You probably know them too.
Yeah, well, yeah. I just had a real feeling that I mean, the first game that they played, it's difficult to say how it was. My reasoning for that was that Tottenham should have scored a lot more goals against Leicester, and Everton really are in a very difficult position with regards to players that are available for Sean Dyche to create a team around. Having said that, I think that Everton will get something out of the game against Bournemouth on Saturday. I've not gone for a win for Everton. I think it will be a 1-1 draw.
Okay, there you go, Blues. Always a positive. But on a serious note, Everton could be in serious trouble. They haven't looked good in the first 2 games. If they don't get something here, they're going to be rooted to the bottom of the table. Last season at Goodison Park, a ground you know well and like. Do you think it's time to worry for Blues fans?
No, because if you look at last season, I mean, they're right away, almost about this time, I think, they got that the points penalty, which was eventually changed on appeal, but that put them at the right in the mire, really. Home form is probably what's kept Everton in the Premier League in the last number of years. I would expect there to be a better performance. Well, not necessarily that, but hopefully they need to keep 11 men on the pitch, but they didn't do in the first game, and Brighton managed to exploit that. I think they'll get something from the game at the weekend against Bournemouth, who have done pretty well at home against, having won 6 over the last 7.
Okay.
So, but I'm going for a draw.
No reason to panic yet, then, Evertonians.
No.
Club that might need to panic are Ipswich, who are at home to Fulham after taking a pasting last week, which you predicted.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I said about them playing out from the back ended up with coming to the fore with the way they defended and the number of goals they lost in a short period of time. really 4-1 flattered Ipswich. It could have been a lot more than that. Ipswich, in their history, have only lost first 3 times in 3 occasions, various different divisions. But I think this weekend it'll be the 4th time, because I'm going to go for an away win for Fulham, who've won the last 4 league meetings against Ipswich. Ipswich 1, Fulham 2.
Okay, moving on. The next 3 o'clock game is Leicester versus Aston Villa.
Leicester have only managed 1 clean sheet in the last 25 Premier League games. I think that was going to be one out of the last 26 after the game. Villa have won 2 of the last 3 visits to Leicester, so I think there's good signs for Villa. Played well, didn't take their chances against Arsenal last week. I'm going for another away win, the second away win potentially of Villa's season, with a result of Leicester 1, Aston Villa 3.
Okay, and the final 3 o'clock game on Saturday is at the City Ground as Nottingham Forest face Wolves.
Well, although Forest have only won one of the last 11 league games versus Wolves, I'm going to go for a home win, which is against all the things that I've just mentioned there, because Wolves are unbeaten their last 6 games in Nottingham at the City Ground. However, I'm going for Forest 2, Wolves 0.
Okay, and on to the tea time game, Saturday 5:30 kickoff. It's West Ham United against Manchester City.
Well, West Ham have not won any of the last 17 Premier League games versus City, and I cannot see that changing on Saturday evening. And the City have also scored more away goals versus West Ham than any other opponent. Something like they've scored 25 times at the London Stadium. And I'm very much predicting that that's going to increase in London on Saturday. And I'm going to go for this very same result, except the home team, West Ham 1, Manchester City 4.
Going for 4 again. You really see City being that dominant this season, do you?
I think, well, particularly because they have scored. It's one of the grounds they very much seem to appear to play well at. And they're in good scoring form. And I can see City scoring that amount of goals, particularly because of the record against West Ham at West Ham Stadium.
Okay, well, West Ham fans, I fear for you. Last time Brian predicted team to score 4 goals, he got it right twice last week. So
remember, I got the result wrong. Crystal Palace last week when West Ham came away with an away win.
Yeah, true. Well, we only focus on the good results here. Sunday, there's 2 games at 1:30. The first one is Chelsea versus Crystal Palace. How do you see this one?
Well, Chelsea, as I predicted, would win at Wolverhampton last week. No one would have guessed that score.
Not even you. You didn't even.
Or even Nostradamus would have got that result right. That was quite incredible. Chelsea have won the last 13 Premier League games against Crystal Palace, and I can see that continuing. I'm going to go for another big scoring game for Chelsea. So I'm going to say they'll score 4, and for Palace to lose their opening 3 games, but not record a goal again. So I'm going for Chelsea 4, Crystal Palace 0.
Okay, more goals to come, according to Brian. The second 1:30 game is Newcastle versus Tottenham.
Yeah, this is another game that there's been lots of goals in. 3 out of the last 5 games, Newcastle have beaten Spurs by at least 4 goals. Newcastle have a great record of scoring at home. But I've been always impressed by Spurs. I was impressed by them last year. I really like Postecoglou. I think he's a wonderful manager with a great philosophy. There's never been a 0-0 in this fixture. I'm not predicting lots of goals. Newcastle 1, Spurs 2.
Okay, and then it's on to the big game on Sunday at 4 o'clock, a fixture you know very well. You'd have played in many a time. It's Old Trafford for Manchester United Liverpool, a special fixture for everyone that's concerned in this game, I assume.
Well, it was always the game you look forward to. Yeah, but that was it. I mean, from very early on in Alex Ferguson's reign as Manchester United's manager, his view was if you finish above Tottenham, if you finish above Liverpool, then the likelihood is you win the league. Wasn't quite the case. I'm not sure he saw how good a team Everton were going to produce at that particular time. But overall, Manchester United winning leagues by finishing above Liverpool. Slot and Ten Hag have played a number of times against each other, managed teams against each other. And up until the pre-season game in America, they had 2 victories each. It's now 3 victories to 2. It's the Liverpool's game in America. Don't think that's going to make any difference. It's big game for both teams. Liverpool being so impressive so far. They've had more shots than any other team in the 2 games that they have played. Surely Manchester United can't be as wasteful as they were against Brighton. But it'll be a big test for Manchester United's defence because the attacking Liverpool players are in fine form. And for me, they're playing ever so well so early on. He is an interesting player that Liverpool look as though they're going to sign. And it could be a wonderful piece of business in the sense that they're paying for him over 4 years. It's only really they're getting a player for 2.7 million, who only 2 years ago or 3 years ago was in the 80 or 90 million euro bracket. Unfortunately for him, a bad knee injury has kept him out for a long time. But he has the flexibility and the ability to play in several positions on the flanks, depending on what particular system you want to play. Yeah, he could be one that makes a huge difference to Liverpool. I can't go against Manchester United, can't go against Liverpool. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw.
I had a feeling you were going to say that, but you might be right. You were right many a time last week, so who's to question it? Talking of predictions last week, one which you didn't come up with was the fact that Oasis were going to get back together for a series of comeback gigs next summer. Now, for those that don't know, the Gallagher brothers could well have had a different career path. Very much thanks to you. What was your connection?
I'm not sure it was thanks to me, but I don't know why they didn't stick at it, because it might have been a better career for them. I don't really know what happened to them, but they used to help out washing cars at the Cliff. They would wash the city lads' cars, and then they would come over in a van and watch. First of all, they'd wash Alex Ferguson's car for free, which allowed them to. He gave them permission then to wash and valet the other players' cars. I know that Liam several times said that he used to take the coins out of the ashtray and use them to scratch different bits of the cars, being a big City fan. And then they stumbled upon some kind of music business and became ever so successful.
But what do you remember about the guys? Do you remember them being
I remember, I remember Noel in particular being very quiet, which clearly the opposite of someone who's gone on to be where in such a successful group. It's something that you can't ever level at either of them in that period of time. They've always been very vociferous about all subjects, something to do with music and an awful lot of times to do with football. But one thing you have to say that despite the fact that they're unfortunately the City fans, they are also very keen on Celtic, so they're not all that bad.
Wow, great stories. We'll be back next time with more Premier League predictions. We'll see you again.